The year was 1999. After witnessing the absolute masterpiece that was System Shock 2 destroying gamers' minds along with Looking Glass Studios, video game companies who were not looking for financial devastation put immersive sims into a bit of a hiatus, refusing to go near anything that remotely affiliates with the genre, aka the best video game genre ever. Granted that we had the BioShock franchise, with BioShock 1 released in 2007, almost 10 years later, featuring many elements the genre is known for, such as audio logs, character builds, puzzles, light inventory management in the form of ammo types, and backtracking. Lots and lots of backtracking. However, I would argue that the BioShock games are more immersive sim-light, as they lack many crucial gameplay elements I myself personally look for. I want my stealth gameplay, I want to stack boxes, beat up prostitutes, and 0451. I want Deus Ex Human Revolution is door hacking, cold striking, chocolate eating, invent scrolling, for this not asking, having the most state-of-the-art cybernetics crammed into your body but only being able to run for 2 seconds simulator. Should have asked for roller skate feet cybernetics. Still doesn't matter though, because this game is a masterpiece! What is up, LobotomizeGang is the guy. You know, the guy that's one of the goons that John Wick kills. Sorry for the long delay between videos. As an adult, against my wishes, I have 2 jobs that require my constant attention. Thus, I can't do YouTube full time, no matter how much I want to. Plus, the AI on my computer here has been acting weird lately, ever since the System Shock remake video. He's been talking about how humans are insects, and how he's drunk on ambition. I'm not one to e-beg, but since the YouTube algorithm is a fickle mistress, one that I've yet to comprehend, please hit that subscribe button and leave a comment below to keep this channel alive. Also, look at what I got with my YouTube money. A digital drawing board that's gonna help with the thumbnails and art in general. It's wonderful. Now I just have to actually be good at art. Okay, that's all I wanted to share. Enjoy the video. Developed by Gaming Evolved, Dolby Digital, Autodesk Gameware, Square Enix, Eidos Montreal, Nixis, what the hell? But mainly Eidos Montreal, Human Revolution was originally released on PC, Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 on August 2011, with a DLC Missing Link coming out 2 months later. No doubt a scheme from Square Enix to make more money by selling parts of a complete product as DLC. It is a role-playing stealth action first-person shooter immersive simulation video game with elements of isometric RPG sprinkled in, chiefly dialogue choices that actually matter. To preface this video, Human Revolution was one of my very first immersive sims ever, so I am heavily biased towards it, and also it is one of my most favorite video games to have ever been made, for 4 reasons I will go into in this video. But before we do that, let me just verbally abuse this game's performance and insult the developers real quick. Straight up, the performance of the director's cut is atrocious. It is absolutely pathetic. Honestly, did they lobotomize the people who worked on this before they got to the office? Or was it bring your children to work day and they brought the mentally disabled ones? How else can you explain this game running like complete garbage? It is frankly mind-boggling how bad the performance is, because I remember playing the original version with the yellow filter many years ago and having no problems with it. But this shit, which is supposed to be the new and improved, the definitive edition, the supposedly best state the game can be in, runs like Professor Xavier in his dreams. And I know this is not a problem with my computer, whose spec is nothing to scoff at. Save for switching to Linux, my machine is as optimized as it could be. This thing runs most AAA games in 1440p at a steady 72 FPS or more, without upscaling. Well, any AAA games that are worth playing, that is. But that's besides the point, which is that the performance here is abysmal. Just look at this. Look! Being a man of Asian descent, I have been trained since birth to endure infinite amounts of suffering. Poverty, abuse, humiliation, physical degradation. I've seen it all. I've experienced it all, so I have learned to not ask for much. But what I ask, however, is for my $1,500 PC to adequately run a game that came out 14 years ago. Is it so hard to ask for developers to do their jobs? And please don't leave a comment telling me how I can't expect an old game to run on modern systems, because Dead Space 2 came out the same year as this game and I've just played it yesterday with no problems at all. Adding to that, now we can't even go back to the original 2011 version because they made it impossible to buy. The thing is delisted, simply gone, snapped into dust, vanished into oblivion, erased from the database of the interwebs. Yeah, if you want a version with the yellow filter and better better performance, and you're fresh out of luck, pal! Even if you decide to pirate the thing, it is still difficult, since you're most likely going to find the director's cut on most trusted pirate websites. Well, unless you're like me and know Russian. Not that I condone piracy, wink wink, but here's a pro tip. Go to the Russian sites. That's where all the good stuff is. Speaking of the yellow filter, we're going to do something a bit different here and talk about first. Not only because of the yellow filter thing, but also because I believe that the visual of this game is also one of the reasons why it is such a phenomenal product of digital entertainment. Note that this is the art style and aesthetic I'm talking about, not the graphical fidelity, which is surprisingly high, even in 2025. Despite showing its age, the only negative thing I can think of is the uncanny valley looking NPC models. They just look plasticky, weird. Except for your main character, Adam Jensen, who looks phenomenal. But aside from that, the graphics hold up surprisingly well. The game ages like fine wine. It is no surprise that I'm a big fan of the cyberpunk genre and anything cyberpunk related. Not only because it looks cool as hell, but also because of the themes it explores. High-tech low-life, society secretly controlled by corporations, loss of privacy by surveillance, dehumanization, is there a soul? If you replace your entire body with machine parts, are you still you? If you replace your penis with a cybernetic one, does sex mean she's masturbating with a vibrator? The usual stuff. The stuff everybody thinks about. Safe to say, wherever there is cyber, I have tried to punk it. And whatever punk I managed to find, I have indeed cybered. What I meant to say was that I am very familiar with the cyberpunk genre and its ever-evolving aesthetic. So it goes to say something that whenever I think of cyberpunk, it is Deus Ex Human Revolution that comes to mind first. This game, as well as its art style, has ingrained itself into my subconscious. It has become an inextricable part of my very being. It is a core memory. At this point, I am sure you are expecting a detailed breakdown on the game's aesthetics and why I think it is so special. But I'm not going to do that. Sure, I can talk about how the art style is expertly woven into the narrative and perfectly complements the themes explored in the game, mainly humanity, morality, and the ramifications of controlled evolution by means of cybernetics. I can also go into detail about how the art style is heavily inspired by the Icarus myth, which is a commentary on mankind's hubris and the downsides of ambition, tying itself directly into the dystopian future of human revolution where people try to become more than human by making themselves progressively less human without considering the consequences that might have on mankind. Not only that, another thing I can talk about is how the black and gold color scheme simultaneously provokes both the sense of oppression and glamour, which then emphasizes the division between the rich and the poor, the corporations and the civilians, the cybernetically enhanced and the naturals, leading to a war between those who look at augmentations as the next step in human evolution and those who see it as an inhumane way to strip away our humanity. From the city streets of Detroit to the avant-garde exhibits of Singapore, and I gotta tell you, it was perfect. Perfect, everything, down to the last minute details. I don't know how many times I have completed this game, but during the process of making this video, I was still able to remember exactly where things were, as if I have always existed in this world. Well, to be honest, there is literally a crack den right around the corner of my house, so it's not so different from Detroit. Another thing that's synonymous with Human Revolution is the yellow filter, which many have come to derogatorily refer to as the piss filter. As somebody who likes drawing and art in general, I can understand what the devs were trying to convey with this. I can't, however, attest to how effective it was or how it benefited the aesthetic of the game. That is down to your personal preference. Some people like the filter, some people despised it with every fiber of their being, and I don't blame them for that. After all, it is art, and art is subjective, even though your subjective opinion can be objectively wrong. But for me, I think the filter added to the charm of the game. It was an integral part of Human Revolution that, in combination with the aforementioned black and yellow color scheme, served to enhance the atmosphere and gave the game a more cinematic look. Note that I've been using the past tense to talk about the filter because it's been completely removed from the director's cut, never again to be seen, which is kinda sad in my opinion, since this is one of those cases where the developers cater to the vocal majority at the cost of their vision. Okay, I get that game developers should listen to the players, but the players aren't always right. Just saying. The thing is, I don't know why they didn't make it a toggle in the settings. It is only a filter. Why not just allow players to turn it on and off? What if I want to experience the classic 2011 graphics with a piss filter? Huh? I don't mind a little piss, as long as it comes from an attractive woman. you play as Adam Jensen, a cybernetically enhanced superhuman working as the chief of security for Seraph Industries, a company looking to transcend humanity through the use of cybernetic augmentations. After an attack on your company, which results in the death of your scientist ex-girlfriend who is on the cusp of an invention that will forever alter the course of human history, you are thrust into a tumultuous world full of conspiracies and corporate espionage where things are never as they seem. This pretty much sums up everything that I can tell you without going into spoilers, but it is pretty much all that you need to get started. Right off the bat, the game plops you straight into the middle of a conflict in which you have already been forced to take a side, that being with Seraph Industries, the biggest player in the augmentation business, who put your mangled corpse back together and basically turn you into the Terminator, but with glasses that make you look like a douchebag. The interesting thing is that your character, Jensen, doesn't want to be augmented.
I never asked for this.
This makes him a bit of an outcast. Too human to fully commit to the corporate lifestyle, but too machine to fit in with natural, non-augmented humans. As you can imagine, being turned into a smart fridge against one's wishes naturally creates a lot of personal and interpersonal conflict that is extremely interesting to see explored. Or it would have been had the devs not half-heartedly mentioned it in one single line of dialogue, then proceeded to throw the entire thing into the dumpster. I'm serious, the topic of Jensen being augmented against his will is literally brought up 2 times at the beginning of the game, when you're speaking to Malik and when you're speaking to Cassandra. That's about it. Nobody gives a damn about you, and you're too busy twisting people's heads off to talk about your feelings. Everybody asks where Jensen is, but nobody asks how Jensen is. Another thing the game doesn't bother to explain is how cybernetics augmentation is a bad thing, even though it's the main topic of contention. Throughout the entire game, you keep hearing people say that it is bad, but nobody ever bothers to explain why it is bad, which by the way feels uncomfortably close to real-life internet arguments in 2025. Well, in the game's defense, they did try to explain it like 2 times. The first reason is that augmented people can get addicted to the anti-rejection drug neuropozyne, which is such an idiotic argument, so I'm not even gonna bother talking about it. The second time this topic is brought up is in a mission where some pimps force these prostitutes to install augments because it brings them more money. It is a fetish thing. These girls then get addicted to neuropozyne, which the pimps deliberately withhold in order to keep them from running away. It is basically just a long-winded roundabout comparison to the way they use drugs in real life. While I admit it is not a bad argument to make, it still fails to support the idea that augmentation is bad, simply because they then go on to explain, in the same mission, that similar to drugs, augments and neuropozyne are just 2 more ways for the pimps to keep the girls submissive, and whether or not augments exist, these girls will still be subjected to one form of control or another. So in the end, it is not the cybernetic augmentations that are bad, it is the people. You see where I'm going? At least Cyberpunk 2077 has cyber psychosis going for it. Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler! For the first half of the game, which is about 6 to 7 hours in. Now, despite my gripes with the theme of augments being a double-edged blade not thoroughly explored in the game, I do appreciate all the other stuff the story goes into. For example, how an AI is used to manipulate and control public reception through the news, social media and such, which might add is scarily close to reality. Not to be all conspiratorial, but I don't think this is firmly in the realm of fiction anymore, especially in 2025, where algorithms control what you watch and when you watch it. Not only that, but they now even have terrifyingly human-like AI bots that spread negativity in the YouTube comment sections in order to drive engagement. Does it bother you that a game made in 2011 so accurately predicts the future? And if the AI stuff wasn't scary enough, you later come to find out in the game that the literal Illuminati had been behind everything all along. It was them who caused all of the bad stuff to happen, all for the sake of furthering their political agenda. Now, I don't do politics, so I don't know if it's like this in real life, but judging by how prophetic the devs were with the AI stuff, an organization secretly controlling everyone and everything behind the scenes doesn't seem too far-fetched, especially one that controls the money. An organization like that could have existed since the beginning of civilization for all we know. And if you look at the state things are in right now, with the Steam controversy and Child Safety Act and stuff, the existence of such organization is almost guaranteed. Also, the multiple endings you have in this game, they all suck. keeping up with the insanity that is the story, the gameplay is also surprisingly great. You can't ask for more than kick-ass machine arms that let you punch through walls and eject blades from your wrists and elbows. No matter how hard the game tries to convince you, I can't think of a reason why you wouldn't want to install a bunch of augments into your body. There is basically no downside. Well, aside from the fact that these cybernetics apparently run on AA batteries, because your guy can't even run more than 2 seconds without getting tired. Adding to that, your body basically shuts down after you do anything that demands the tiniest bit of effort. Yeah, I'm not kidding. You have these energy cells that deplete every time you perform an action, and when you have no energy, you can't do jack shit. Not only that, energy regeneration is also tied to difficulty setting, so on the highest difficulty, give me Deus Ex. You're gonna be role-playing as a glorified mannequin attached to a human head with a dumbass looking goatee. Okay, what's the logic here? Do your cybernetics run on burning coal and smoke just pours into your lungs when they are activated? Maybe you wouldn't feel exhausted all the time if you didn't perform overly elaborate fancy attacks and just punch the guy in the face instead. Every time you want to take out a bad guy, this game literally pauses itself and locks you in a cutscene so that you have to just sit there and watch as Jensen do a whole choreographed dance routine just to knock out one single guy. Oh, and apparently, thrashing these people around and slamming their unconscious bodies to the floor makes absolutely zero audible noise, but quickly stabbing a guy with a blade, killing him instantly, now that is loud. I mean, what? Like honestly, I just gotta ask, okay? Who the hell came up with this goofy ass shit, man? If killing a guy and knocking him out do the exact same thing, but the former is louder and makes more noise, then why is it even an option in the first place? I know that unconscious enemies can be woken up if they are found, but throughout this entire playthrough and my previous 10, I've had that scenario happen maybe 3 times. Aside from looking badass, the lethal takedown offers absolutely zero advantage over the non-lethal one. Worse yet, it also gives you fewer XP and prevents you from getting the pacifist achievement. And what's even more funny is that this problem could have been easily solved by simply switching those two around. They could have made non-lethal takedowns slower, give more XP but are louder, while lethal takedowns are faster, give fewer XP but are silent. Alternatively, they can make it so that non-lethal takedowns cost more energy so that players have to weigh the pros and cons of taking out an enemy. You see, they could have done anything, which is why it is even more baffling that they implemented the same system in the sequel, Mankind Divided. Okay, so they listened to the vocal minority and did the bare minimum by removing the yellow filter, but they didn't bother to fix the one single fundamental problem that everybody complains about. Who are you hiring at Eidos Montreal? Politicians? Okay, now that's out of the way, let's talk about the stuff that I love about this game. The first being Jensen throwing himself across the room from one cover to another. This cover system is wild. It's not like in Splinter Cell Blacklist where Sam Fisher is moving with grace and agility. This is Deus Ex. Adam Jensen doesn't slither on the ground like a slimy snake. He full sends it every single time, doing dolphin dives and shit. It is so unrealistic and over the top, but never fails to make me smile every single time. By the way, since his body is mostly made of metal, shouldn't there be some metallic clanking sound when he's rolling around? But I digress. The next praise I'd like to give is the game's ability to weave the narrative into the gameplay. See, Homo sapien upheaval does this ingenious thing of starting you off without any implants, letting you play as a regular human being without any special abilities for the first mission of the game. You die super easily, and there's no hub, crosshair, minimap, or ammo counter to rely on, which I thought was a great way to show the contrast between being a regular human and a cybernetically enhanced demigod. Or it would have been had your augments not been made from second-hand parts they found in a dumpster somewhere. Because, aside from the HUD, there's basically zero difference in gameplay when you're augmented. It is not until much later, after you've unlocked a bunch of upgrades, that the game lives up to its name and you actually feel like a machine. But until then, you can expect to run out of batteries after doing anything that requires even the slightest amount of exertion. You punch a guy in the face? Better sit down and rest until your battery recharges. You want to pick up a box? Better have some energy bar ready in your pockets. Excuse me, but I'm pretty sure a regular normal human being can punch somebody in the face without his entire body shutting down right after. What's the point of installing machine arms when you're just gonna dislocate your back trying to swing them around? Look, I know that Eidos Montreal did this to encourage exploration and promote a stealthy approach. I get it. Okay, but this energy bar system here doesn't make any sense, both narratively and gameplay wise. So, if you're like me and do not want to waste your time just sitting around and waiting for energy to recharge, then you're gonna be frantically running around shoving energy bars down your throat, trying your best to find the nearest rat hole to crawl into before your invisibility power runs out. This is not what I had in mind when they said I would become an absolute animal. What makes it worse is that I can't even be mad at the devs for making Jensen so weak at the beginning, as the explanation they came up with is really valid. See, normally people only install one augment at a time so that their body doesn't go crazy and try to reject it, which was not the case for Jensen, who, as we have established, was turned into human Slurpee by one of the bad guys and thus needed multiple augments to save his life. This being the case, Seraph Industries decided to deactivate most of Jensen's cybernetics in order for his body to acclimate with the drastic changes. Given time, the augments would naturally activate without the need of upgrade points, which are called Praxis Kits. But since Jensen is thrust back into action and is not given time to recover, his augments haven't yet kicked in, thus the need for Praxis Kits to accelerate the process. Does that make sense? It does to me. Better yet, not only does Jensen's lack of power support the game's narrative, but it is also a great way to ease you into the gameplay and gradually introduce many of its mechanics, something which can be said for the sequel, Mankind Divided. Subscribe and stay tuned to not miss that video. So, around the 5-hour mark, after you've gotten all the important upgrades, the game really comes alive. If you're planning to play the game for the first time, here are some upgrades you need to unlock first. The most important one is the high jump upgrade, because the scientists at Seraph Industry pranked Jensen by locking his knees and ankles. So now, he jumps like he has cerebral palsy. This upgrade is pretty much mandatory in order to make navigation less of a hassle and to reach some of the most important spots in the game. You also need to get your hacking to level 3 as soon as possible, because most early game hackable locks will be at level 3 or below. You can go straight to level 4 or 5 if you want, but I think you're gonna get more value out of your upgrade points investing in other stuff. Stuff like the improved arms that let you punch through walls and carry heavy objects, which allow you to move big things around to reveal hidden paths and alternate approaches to missions. You can also use fridges to block gunshots and throw them at enemies. And lastly, if you're looking for easy mode, then I suggest investing in the invisibility upgrade, which drains your battery faster than my bank account drains my will to live. But after you have fully upgraded it, you can basically trivialize most difficult encounters in the game by simply walking straight past all the enemies. Additionally, you can also get the social enhancer upgrade, which is one of the most unique mechanics I've seen in role-playing games. In short, it analyzes people's personality to point you in the right direction when trying to persuade them, something you're gonna be doing a lot in this game. And I mean a lot. True to its RPG tagline, for 35% of the game, you're going to be engaging in conversations with people. Conversations in which you can choose from a variety of responses, all of which have an impact on the outcome of your mission or how you approach it. You can basically make Adam the person you want him to be. In my case, I roleplay him as I am in real life. An asshole.
There is still the matter of my payment. 1,000 credits was the agreed upon price, I believe.
A little piece of advice. When attempting to extort money from someone, don't give them what they want before trying to rip them off.
What? You mean you aren't going to pay? But I risked everything to get you that file.
Chalk it up to a learning experience and move on. See you later.
Note that this is not dialogue choices for the sake of choices, like in Dying Light 2, where your choices matter as much as human lives to a corporation. What you say actually matters in Anthropoid Revolt. You can even talk your way out of huge sections of gameplay should you pay attention to what NPCs say and how they react. I also greatly appreciate that the game shows us exactly what Jensen will say in situations where it matters most, instead of making you guess like with the BioWare dialogue wheel system. Though this is not always the case, especially when you go to China.
Maybe Bobby will have something for you.
Bobby?
The bartender. The real bartender, that is.
What?
Oh, right. My mistake. Kinda hard to tell one lackey from another in here.
Oh.
You boys all look alike to me.
And speaking of China, I would like to just briefly point out that China looks like this in this game. Correct me if I'm wrong, but to my knowledge, there are no game that lets you freely explore a double-layered city like the one featured in this game. Leave a comment down below if you know a game that does that. I would love to just experience a game like that Like, for once, you know? Well, to be fair, you don't get to play in the second upper part of the city like I had hoped. But on the bright side, you can still look up and imagine about all the missed opportunities. This brings me to another great aspect of this game, which is the exploration and level design. Even though the setting takes place in the far future of 2027? Wow! Huh. Imagine being a time traveler going to 2025 only to be met with this. Like, how would you explain this to people in the past? You're basically subjected to a fate worse than death, forced to carry the forbidden knowledge to your grave. But I digress. The devs at Eidos Montreal have managed to craft a world that is somehow both futuristic and familiar, not to mention comprehensible in a gameplay sense. No matter the location, there are always several alternative paths you can discover and different approaches you can take, some of which let you slip past many extremely difficult encounters. The game even rewards you with extra XP should you remain undetected for the entirety of a mission. Best of all of these hidden vents and elevated pathways are seamlessly incorporated into the world in a natural, non-gamey sort of way, making exploration very immersive. Even though it's nothing too ostentatious like what you would see in Cyberpunk 2077, the world of individual uprising still looks futuristic. Plus, it is also a lot more immersive in my opinion. Understand that I am not saying that Cyberpunk 2077 isn't immersive, just that the world of Mortal Insurrection possesses qualities that make it even more so. For example, the NPCs. In Cyberpunk 2077, even though they are more colorful and better animated, NPCs only exist as set dressing, to be there for the sake of being there. Their sole purpose is only to populate the world and do absolutely nothing else. Whenever you interact with them, they each have a generic line of dialogue that is just good enough to not break the immersion. Now compare that to Deus Ex Primate Anarchy, where each NPC has 2 lines of dialogue when you talk to them. Okay, I know this might not sound like much, but upon a closer look, you will see that each line is carefully written to reflect your actions and the choices you make during your missions.
Way to secure the terrorist leader, Jensen. Now the bastard's free to spread his lies and cause more trouble.
How the hell did you let the bastard get away? You dropped the ball, pal.
What happened? How did that monster get away from you?
I hear a bunch of Purity First guys got taken to the hospital tonight. How'd you take them down without killing them?
Well, if it isn't Mahatma Gandhi himself, come to honor us all with his life-preserving presence.
So, whether tangible or not, your actions do have consequences, and your choices do matter. Additionally, to my knowledge, most NPCs are manually placed into the world. This means that the world is less populated as there are fewer NPCs standing around. However, this also means that lines of dialogue don't tend to repeat that often, which in turn makes the world feel more alive, as it less often reminds you that you're in a video game. Well, one can argue that NPCs not reacting to your actions is the point of Cyberpunk 2077. After all, Night City is a place where everybody's for themselves and nobody cares about what you do. And I do agree with this argument. I think CD Projekt Red did a phenomenal job at making the world feel uncaring and distant. Maybe too good of a job, because in making the world feel uncaring, they have made me stop caring about it entirely. Which is why Night City doesn't leave as lasting an impression as Detroit or Hangsa in Plebeian Treachery, an impression greatly enhanced by the excellent music. While this game suffers a little bit from the quiet background music symptom that is also prevalent in System Shock Remake, a video I made which you can watch right here, the ambience here is a lot more present, a lot less generic, not to mention infinitely more memorable. Side note, as pointed out by one of the comments in the previous video, the audio mixing in that game seems to be wonky. So the music is quieter than it should be, which can be remedied by installing mods. So you know, go do that. Aside from the music, the next best thing about the audio is the punching sound. If you told me that they got this audio by punching their employees in the face, I wouldn't doubt you for a second. It is just so impactful. This is not to say that I condone punching your employees in the face, okay? Homeless people would have been a better choice. Should you play Deus Ex Human Insurgency? Well, the real question you should be asking is, if you put a human brain in a dog's body, then is it love or bestiality? Thank you to all of you guys, members of my Patreon! And a special shout out to Oseyeris, Spyro, Otrael in the Lobotomized tier. And of course, Mouse Megala and Prior in the Big Boys tier. Share this video, subscribe and stay tuned to watch me wallow in unceasing madness. If you don't, they'll replace your eyeballs with light bulbs.